Hey campers, today we are back with another video and we will be touching on the Pythagorean theorem. So when you hear this name, you might think, wow, that sounds kind of weird. What is that? And it's actually a really simple equation that you'll be using a lot in high school math and possibly even the later years of middle school math. So the premise around the Pythagorean theorem is that you are trying to solve for the sides of a right triangle. Now I'm saying right triangle because this theorem can only be used on a right triangle. You can't use it to solve for an obtuse triangle or an acute triangle. It only can be used on a right triangle, which is a triangle that has a 90-degree angle. Now, the theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you're solving for c squared, which is the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is the longer side of a triangle. Now, a squared and b squared are just the other sides of the triangle. Now, you can also just rearrange the equation and do something like c squared minus b squared equals a squared. So you can also rearrange the triangle if you don't have the value for a or for b, so you can end up solving for that one. Okay guys, so now we're gonna go over a practice problem. We here have an illustration of a right triangle with two sides of value 6 and 8 and hypotenuse, which we do not know the value of. We're gonna say that this side is A and this side is B. So here I have all of the values of the triangle, meaning that the A is going to be 6, the B is going to be 8, and the C, as you know, we don't have the value, so that's going to stay a question mark. We're going to use our Pythagorean theorem to find the C value. So here's our Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And now all we have to do is plug in these numbers and solve. It's pretty simple. So we're going to plug in the A, which is 6 squared, plus b, which is 8 squared, equals c squared. Now that we have that, we know that 8 squared and 6 squared is just 6 times 6 and 8 times 8. So 6 times 6 is 36 plus 8 times 8, which is 64. And that equals c squared. Now that we know these two values, all we have to do is just add them together, and that will give us 100. So this 100 equals c squared. Now to get rid of a square root, to get rid of a squared variable, we have to square root that variable. So we will square root the c squared and square root the 100, because whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 100 is, when you square root it, then that's just 10 times 10. So the value would just be 10 equals C, and that is our final answer. So now we can go back to the question mark and say that that equals 10, and that is how you do a pretty simple Pythagorean theorem problem. Okay guys, so now we're gonna go over a Pythagorean theorem problem that takes a little bit more steps to actually solve for. In this case, we will be making, of course, a right triangle and indicating that we do not know the A value, but we know that B equals 3 and that C, the hypotenuse, equals 7. So that is how our triangle is going to look. Now we want to fill in what each variable equals, so it is a little bit easier to solve them and put those variables into our final equation. So we know that A, we do not have that value, so we'll be putting a question mark there. B is 3, and C equals 7. Now, our regular Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. However, now we're trying to find the A value, so we want to rearrange our equation so that we can have it so that we're solving for the a squared instead of c squared. A way that we can do this is by subtracting the b squared onto the other side. Now our equation is going to look like this. C squared minus b squared equals a squared. So that will be the equation we're going to be using to plug in these three variables. Now, as I said, let's start getting to plugging in all the variables. So c squared is 7, so it will be 7 squared minus b squared, which is 3, equals a squared. Now 7 squared is just 7 times 7, which is 49, minus 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. And that equals a squared. So 49 minus 9 is just 40. It's pretty simple subtraction. And that again equals a squared. Now, as we know, to get rid of a squared variable, you have to square root it. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So that means that it will equal a equals the square root of 40. Because 40 is not a perfect square, we cannot just have a regular number there. And because we do not know how to rationalize yet, which that will be in a different video that we'll probably be posting later in the summer, but right now your final answer will just be the square root of 40. So that means that this a right here is just going to be square root of 40, and that is how you do a little bit more of a multi-stepped Pythagorean theorem problem. Okay guys, that was it for Pythagorean theorem lesson. I hope that you guys have gained a much better understanding of how the theorem works and realize that it actually isn't as hard as you may have thought it was. You can now go check how much you learned on the worksheet and the answer key that we have provided on our website. If you want to watch more videos of our fun STEM experiments and some more lessons, we have them linked on our website and on our YouTube channel if you're following us through there. We cannot wait to see you guys again, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye, campers.